I ordered a phone case online, but when it got stolen, I discovered something shocking about my neighbor. He had taken my package, and that's when I decided to turn the tables. What happened next? Well, let's just say, he'll never steal from me again. So, this happened a while ago, and I still laugh whenever I think about it. It all started on a quiet Tuesday morning when I was expecting a little parcel that I'd been looking forward to for days. It was nothing special, just a phone case I had ordered online, but to me, it was a big deal. I've been using the same old cracked case for months, and this new one was going to make my phone look all shiny and new again. I got an email from the delivery service saying it had been delivered. I checked my front porch when I got home from work that afternoon. Nothing. Okay, no big deal. Sometimes delivery people leave things at the wrong door, or the package gets stuck under something. I didn't panic just yet. But when I checked the tracking info again, I saw something that made my stomach drop. It said my parcel had been signed for. I double-checked the delivery note. Delivered and signed by signature. The only problem? No one had signed for it. I immediately checked my security cameras, figuring maybe someone had dropped it off when I wasn't home. But no. The camera footage showed that the delivery guy had come, dropped the package at the door, and then nothing. No one had touched it. It was only after I spent a few hours checking and double-checking that I thought about Dave, my neighbor. Dave was, well, he wasn't exactly the nicest guy on the block. I mean, he wasn't a criminal or anything, but he was always poking his nose into other people's business. I'd seen him hanging around his front yard, keeping an eye on the comings and goings of the neighborhood. One day, I even noticed him glancing at my front door when a delivery was made. I had a bad feeling, but I wasn't sure if it was just paranoia. So I let it slide. But then, when I went to ask a few neighbors if they had seen anything, it hit me. One of them mentioned that they had seen Dave fiddling with a package on my porch a few days before. And that's when the plans started to form. You see, I wasn't one for confrontation, and I didn't want to get into some dramatic showdown with Dave. But what I did want was a little justice. If he was going to take my parcel, then maybe it was time to borrow his for a while. I waited for the perfect moment. The next time I saw a delivery truck pulling up to Dave's house, I knew it was game time. I casually strolled by his house, pretending to take a walk. I saw the delivery guy drop off a huge box, probably something expensive, maybe even electronics. It was too good an opportunity to pass up. I waited until nightfall. I grabbed a bag, tucked it under my arm, and walked right up to his porch. As I reached for the box, my heart was racing. I quickly picked it up, tucked it under my arm, and walked back home, hoping no one saw me. I know. It sounds bad, but in my head, it felt like poetic justice. That night, I didn't open the box. I didn't want to get caught with something I shouldn't have. But I did put it right next to my front door, just to make sure it was waiting for me when I needed it. The next day, I did the same thing. And the next. Day after day, I took Dave's packages, one after another. Each time, I felt less guilty. After all, he had stolen my parcel, right? And every day, Dave grew more and more frantic. He started pacing around his porch, checking and double-checking that his packages had been delivered. But each time, they were gone. Soon, his paranoia reached new heights. He started asking the neighbors if they had seen anything suspicious. One time, I even caught him knocking on my door, trying to be casual about it. Hey, have you had any packages taken recently? I swear, my deliveries keep disappearing. I couldn't help but smile. The guy had no idea what was really going on. The following week, I went on taking Dave's packages. He didn't seem to catch on at first, even though his behavior was getting more and more frantic. He started pacing his front yard like a nervous wreck. I remember seeing him one afternoon, furiously scribbling something on a piece of paper while his porch looked bare. He even started asking the delivery drivers to leave his packages at the back door, but no matter what he did, they still disappeared. And this went on for days. I couldn't help but get a little satisfaction from the whole situation. I was actually starting to look forward to each new delivery. It was like a little game, and the best part? Dave had no clue I was the one playing it. But then, things started to get a little too interesting. One afternoon, I was sitting on my couch, watching TV, when I heard the familiar sound of a delivery truck pulling up to Dave's house. I peeked out the window, and sure enough, there was a massive box being unloaded from the back of the truck. It was a big one, the kind of box you only get when you buy something expensive. My heart started to race with excitement. This was going to be the perfect opportunity. I grabbed my bag and slipped out the back door, careful to keep out of sight. But as I made my way to Dave's porch, something unexpected happened. Dave was standing there. He had been watching the delivery truck, and when the driver left, he rushed out to grab his package. I froze. My heart skipped a beat, and for a second I thought I might get caught. But then I saw the look on his face. He looked frustrated, confused, and honestly kind of desperate. He dropped the package onto his porch and started pacing again. I quickly ducked back behind my fence, my mind racing. It was like watching a train wreck unfold, but at the same time, it was hard not to feel a little bad for the guy. He was clearly stressed, and for some reason, that made me hesitate for just a moment. But I couldn't back out now. The game had to go on. Over the next few days, Dave's behavior became more erratic. He started posting on the neighborhood message board about the thefts. "Has anyone had packages stolen recently?" he wrote. "I swear, I'm missing half my stuff. What is going on around here?" He even started contacting the police, trying to report the thefts, but there was no evidence. The delivery service said everything had been signed for, but none of the packages ever seemed to make it inside his house. It wasn't long before he started talking to the other neighbors. He'd stand in front of his house, fidgeting with his hands, and complain to anyone who would listen. "I don't know what's going on. My packages are gone, and I'm starting to lose my mind. I even had a new delivery today, and it disappeared too." At this point, I was starting to feel a little guilty, but at the same time, I couldn't stop myself. Every time he looked more desperate, I felt this strange sense of satisfaction. After all, he'd taken my package in the first place, right? One evening, he finally caught me on my way back from a walk. I'd been out running errands, and as I passed his house, he called out to me. "Hey," Dave said, waving me over with a grin. "Can I talk to you for a sec?" I stopped and walked over, trying to keep my expression neutral. The last thing I wanted was for him to suspect anything. "Hey, listen," he said, his voice shaky. "I've been thinking about this whole package situation. I know this sounds weird, but have you, had anything go missing lately? I'm just so frustrated. My stuff keeps disappearing, and I don't know what to do." I almost laughed, but I kept my cool. No, nothing missing on my end. I mean, I guess it happens sometimes. Packages get lost, or I don't know, stolen." I shrugged like it was no big deal, though inside, I was fighting to keep from grinning. He was clearly losing it, and the fact that he was talking to me like I might have some kind of solution was too funny. Dave kept going, his voice rising in frustration. "I mean, it's weird, right? Who would steal from me? I'm just a guy trying to get his deliveries. Why would someone do this?" I shook my head sympathetically. "Yeah, weird, right? People can be unpredictable sometimes." I casually glanced at the package sitting on his porch, still untouched. The big one that had been there all day. I had to admit, seeing him like this was kind of making me feel bad. He didn't seem like a bad person, just a little misguided. But then, the memory of my own stolen parcel came rushing back. It was almost too perfect that he had ended up in the same situation. Maybe I didn't feel that bad after all. I gave him a friendly pat on the back. "Hey, don't worry. I'm sure everything will work out. You know, maybe try asking the delivery service to put a lockbox out front or something." He nodded, looking grateful but still clearly frazzled. "Yeah, maybe. Thanks. You're probably right. I just don't know who would do something like this." I couldn't resist it any longer. "People can be pretty sneaky," I said with a grin. Then I made my exit, heading back to my house with a smile that I just couldn't shake. After that awkward conversation, I figured it was time to wrap up my little game. I had taken his packages for long enough, and as much as I was enjoying the satisfaction of watching him struggle, I didn't want to take it too far. Plus, I figured he might finally start catching on. So, I decided to end things with a bang. I waited until the last package of the week showed up. It was a massive box, the kind that screamed expensive. When the delivery guy dropped it off and drove away, I wasted no time. I grabbed all the packages I'd stashed at my place and neatly piled them up in front of Dave's door. I even wrote a note and attached it to the top of the pile. The note read, "Hope you enjoyed the free trial. Your packages will be waiting for you here. Your friendly neighborhood thief." It took a lot of self-control not to burst out laughing as I walked back to my house and peeked out the window. I could barely wait to see his reaction. The next morning, I woke up early, eager to see how Dave would react. I peeked through the blinds, holding my breath as I watched him open his front door. For a second, there was silence. He just stood there, staring at the pile of packages. His eyes darted from the boxes to the note I'd left, and then back to the boxes. I could see his mind working as he tried to piece it all together. Then, his face did something I'll never forget. It went from confusion to shock, and then to disbelief. He took a few slow steps forward and looked around like he was checking if anyone had witnessed the moment. His mouth opened, then closed, as though he was unsure whether to laugh or scream. He bent down and started reading the note. I watched as his shoulders slumped, and I could tell it was sinking in. The realization must have hit him all at once. He was the one who'd been caught, and the very person he'd been accusing of stealing from him was the one who'd turned the tables. I couldn't help it anymore. I burst out laughing. I know it wasn't the nicest thing to do, but the look on his face made all of my frustration with him over the past weeks feel so worth it. I wasn't the only one who noticed, either. A few neighbors who had been out on their morning walk stopped and watched as Dave stood there, with his jaw practically on the ground, staring at the packages. It must have been a pretty funny sight, because I could see a couple of them trying to stifle laughs behind their hands. Finally, after what felt like forever, Dave snapped out of it. He picked up the note, crumpled it in his hand, and started picking up the boxes one by one. As he stacked them up, he muttered to himself, probably cursing me under his breath. I waited a bit before I went outside, not wanting to make it obvious that I had been watching him the whole time. I casually walked out to get my mail and walked right past him. "Morning, Dave," I said with a smile, trying to keep it neutral, even though I was absolutely grinning inside. He didn't look at me right away, still busy fumbling with his packages. But when he finally did look up, his face was a mixture of embarrassment, frustration, and, if I'm being honest, admiration. I don't know what to say," he stammered. I just thought you might have been the one taking my stuff." I gave him a nod, trying not to laugh. "Well, Dave, I guess we both learn a lesson here." He didn't respond, just sighed and went back to hauling his packages inside. I could see the wheels turning in his head, no doubt realizing he had been outsmarted. But honestly, it felt good to know I had pulled one over on him. That was the last time I ever had any trouble with Dave and his packages. In fact, the rest of the neighborhood seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief after the whole situation was over. I'm sure Dave's reputation took a hit after the incident, though no one openly talked about it. It didn't need to be said. Everyone knew what had happened, and that was enough. A few days later, I saw Dave outside again. This time, he wasn't pacing. He wasn't checking his front door every 5 minutes. He wasn't fidgeting with his hands. He just looked like a guy who had been through a rough patch and was now trying to get back to normal life. I caught his eye as I walked by, and for the first time in weeks, he gave me a small, sheepish smile. "Hey," he said, scratching his head. I'm really sorry about what happened with the parcel. I was just frustrated, you know." I nodded, genuinely not holding a grudge. "It happens. We all get a little desperate sometimes." Dave chuckled awkwardly. "Well, I guess I owe you a thanks for teaching me a lesson." He gave a small laugh. "And for not opening any of my packages. I thought maybe you were going to, have some fun with my stuff." I smirked. "Nah, I figured just taking them was punishment enough. Besides, I wasn't interested in your electronics." He laughed, and for the first time, it felt like there was no tension between us. It was just a brief, awkward moment that we both knew had passed, and that was that. "Thanks for not, going too far," he said, his voice a little quieter than usual. I shrugged. It was just a bit of fun. No hard feelings. And with that, we both moved on. Dave went back to his house, and I went back to mine, both of us feeling like we had learned something from the experience.